I'm Madison Bennett, 34, and last week my mother sent me a text that changed everything. You're not welcome here anymore. After 6 years of building my career at Pinnacle Hospitality Group, I finally had the power to show my family who really controls their precious paradise. One phone call to the luxury mountain resort they depend on for their annual Thanksgiving gathering was all it took. They never bothered to learn what my hotel job actually entailed. Before I start my story, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if family drama is your guilty pleasure too. The Bennett family legacy is built on appearances. My parents, Richard and Vivian, made their fortune in real estate development back in the 90s, and they've spent every day since then making sure everyone knows it. Growing up in Greenwich, Connecticut meant private schools, country club memberships, and vacations at only the most exclusive destinations. It also meant constant pressure to maintain the Bennett family image. I started in hospitality completely by accident. During college summer breaks, I took a front desk position at the Pine Ridge Resort in Aspen, mainly to escape my parents' suffocating expectations for a few months. They were horrified when I chose to stay on after graduation instead of joining my father's company. It's just a phase, my mother told her friends at the club. Madison will come to her senses eventually. That was 12 years ago. Since then, I've worked my way up from the front desk to management trainee, then assistant manager, hotel manager, and finally, 3 months ago, to regional director overseeing 5 luxury properties in the Western region, including the Pine Ridge Resort, where my family has spent every Thanksgiving for the past 15 years. My brother, Blake, followed the expected path. He joined our father's company straight out of his Ivy League business school and has been groomed to take over ever since. At 37, he's already a partner, though his actual contributions to the company remain questionable at best. My sister Natalie, 30, married the son of one of my father's business associates and spends her days planning charity galas and posting perfectly filtered photos of her life on social media. When are you going to get a real career? Blake would ask whenever we were together. Playing hotel manager isn't exactly building a future. What my family never bothered to understand was that I wasn't playing at anything. I had built something meaningful on my own terms. My recent promotion put me in charge of over 500 employees across 5 properties, with combined annual revenue exceeding $90 million. But to them, I was still just Madison who worked at a hotel. Every November, my parents would book their usual Aspen trip, 2 premium Mountain View suites for 5 nights over Thanksgiving weekend. They'd request the same personal concierge, insist on the same table for dinner each night, and generally expect royal treatment. What they didn't know was that for the past 3 years, they'd been getting special attention because of me, not because of their own importance. The tension had been building for months before everything exploded. Last summer, during a family dinner at my parents' home, Blake casually mentioned that Dad had updated his will. "Don't worry, Maddie," he said, smirking over his whiskey. "We made sure you get something, even though you opted out of the family business." "What exactly does that mean?" I asked, feeling my stomach tighten. My father cleared his throat. "Blake and Natalie will split the company's shares, of course. You'll receive a generous cash distribution. So, I'm essentially being cut out of the family legacy because I chose my own path?" "Don't be dramatic," my mother interjected. "You made your choice a long time ago." That dinner ended with forced smiles and hollow promises to get together again soon. The next time we did, it was for Natalie's engagement announcement in September. She and her boyfriend Trevor had been together for 3 years, and everyone acted like their engagement was the second coming. My recent promotion, which I'd shared the week before, was completely forgotten in the excitement. "Regional director sounds impressive," my father said dismissively when I brought it up. "But I imagine the salary can't compare to what Blake makes in a single quarter." I bit my tongue and smiled. Let them think what they wanted. I didn't need their approval anymore. But the final straw came at a pre-Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house last weekend. Mom had insisted we all get together before the holiday to coordinate plans for their Aspen trip. What that really meant was delegating tasks and making sure everyone knew their roles in the perfect family tableau she wanted to create. I arrived 15 minutes late due to a work emergency, One of our hotel's major systems had gone down, affecting reservations across multiple properties. As regional director, I needed to be on the call to authorize the emergency protocols. "Nice of you to finally join us," my mother said as I hung up my coat. "We've already finished the appetizers." "Sorry, work emergency," I explained, taking my usual seat at the table. Blake snorted. "What kind of emergency happens at a hotel? Someone didn't get enough towels." I should have let it go, but 12 years of condescension had worn my patience thin. "Actually, a system-wide technical issue affecting thousands of guests across 5 properties," I replied coolly. "But please, tell me more about the emergency of choosing between beige and taupe for your office makeover." The table went silent. My father's eyes narrowed, and my mother pressed her lips into a thin line. "There's no need for that attitude," she said. "We're trying to have a nice family dinner." The rest of the meal progressed with surface-level conversation, everyone carefully avoiding anything substantive. Until dessert, when Natalie mentioned her plans for the Thanksgiving weekend. "Trevor and I thought it would be nice to invite his parents to join us in Aspen this year," she announced. "Since they'll be family soon, it makes sense to include them in our traditions." "That's a wonderful idea," my mother beamed. "I'll make sure the resort arranges another suite for them." "Actually," I started, "the resort is nearly fully booked for Thanksgiving weekend. You might want to let me know soon if you need extra accommodations." They all looked at me like I'd suggested they stay in a motel. "Madison, don't be silly," my mother said. "They always make room for us. We're preferred guests." "Yeah, Maddie," Blake added with a smirk. "Not everyone has to settle for the standard rooms like you probably do with your employee discount." That's when I realized they had no idea that I now oversaw the very resort they treated as their personal playground. Before I could respond, my father changed the subject to Blake's recent business trip to Tokyo, and the moment passed. But the tension simmered just below the surface for the rest of the evening, waiting for the spark that would ignite it all. That spark came when my mother brought up holiday gifts. She pulled out her iPad and began scrolling through a list. "I've been thinking about coordinating our gift exchange this year," she said. "Madison, since you're single again, you'll be responsible for gifts for the resort staff. Nothing extravagant, just something to show appreciation." Blake laughed. "Yeah, maybe you can get them all keychains with the hotel logo. Employee discount, right?" "Actually," I said, setting down my wine glass, "I handle staff appreciation through proper channels. We have protocols for that." "Protocols," Natalie repeated, rolling her eyes. "It's just a few gift baskets, Madison. It's not like you're running the Pentagon." "No, I'm just responsible for over 500 employees and properties worth hundreds of millions of dollars," I replied, feeling my composure start to crack. "Here we go again," Blake sighed dramatically. "Madison and her important hotel job." "It's not just a hotel job," I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts. "I'm the regional director for Pinnacle Hospitality Group's entire Western Division." "Yes, dear, and we're very proud," my mother said in the same tone she used when I won participation trophies as a child. "Now about these gift baskets." "You know what? I don't think you are proud," I said, pushing back my chair. "I don't think you have any concept of what I actually do or what I've accomplished without any help from this family." My father's face darkened. "That's enough, Madison. Your mother is trying to include you in family plans despite your attitude." "Include me? As what? The family servant?" "Madison will handle the staff gifts. Madison will make sure the hotel knows our preferences." "Has it ever occurred to any of you that I might be more than just your connection to good service?" "Don't be so sensitive," Blake interjected. "We all have our roles. Mine is running the family business, Natalie's is maintaining our social connections, and yours is, well, whatever it is you do at that hotel." "What I do," I said, standing now, "is manage a division that generates more revenue annually than your entire department at Dad's company." The table fell silent. I'd never spoken to them this way before, never directly challenged the family hierarchy. Blake recovered first.
"Right.
"And how's that working out for your personal life? Remind me again why Jason left." Was it because you were too busy answering the front desk phone to pay attention to him? That was a deliberate hit below the belt. My relationship with Jason had ended 2 months ago after 3 years together. He had indeed cited my work commitment as one of the reasons, but it was more complicated than that. Blake knew it was still a raw wound. That's not fair, Natalie said quietly, surprising me by defending me. But then she continued, though honestly, Madison, maybe if you put as much effort into your appearance and relationship as you do into your job, things might have worked out differently. I've been meaning to tell you about this amazing stylist who could really help with your look. And there it was. Even Natalie's defense came with a backhanded insult. My look, I repeated incredulously. What exactly is wrong with my look? Nothing's wrong with it, she backpedaled. It's just very professional. Men sometimes want a woman who looks like she has time for them, not just for board meetings. I can't believe this, I said, looking around the table. Do any of you actually see me as a person, or am I just a collection of failures in your eyes? Not in the family business. Not married. Not dressed the right way. Madison, that's not fair, my mother interjected. We want what's best for you. We always have. No, I corrected her. You want what looks best for the Bennett family. There's a difference. My father stood now, his napkin thrown onto his plate. That's enough. You will not speak to your mother that way in our home. Fine, I said, grabbing my purse. Then I won't speak at all. Madison, don't be childish, my mother called after me as I headed for the door. I turned back one last time. I'm not being childish. I'm removing myself from a toxic situation. Something I should have done years ago. If you walk out that door right now, my father warned, don't expect to be welcome at Thanksgiving. I looked him directly in the eyes. Maybe that's for the best. The door closed behind me with a satisfying thud, and I made it all the way to my car before the tears started falling. 12 years of trying to prove myself, of seeking approval that was never going to come, all collapsed in on me at once. The next morning, I woke to a text message from my mother. Your behavior last night was unacceptable. Until you're ready to apologize and act like a proper member of this family, you're not welcome here anymore. We'll see you when you come to your senses. My hands shook as I scrolled through the group chat they'd started without me. Plans for Thanksgiving weekend, who was arriving when, what activities they'd planned. The final message from my brother. Don't worry about Maddie. More champagne for us. It was clear in that moment that I'd always been expendable to them. A nice addition when I played by their rules, but easily discarded when I didn't. The realization didn't just hurt, it fundamentally altered how I saw my family and my place in it. For 2 days, I buried myself in work, avoiding the emotional fallout. I extended my hours at the office, volunteered for extra conference calls, and generally made myself too busy to think. But avoidance only works for so long. On the 3rd day after the blow-up, my assistant Olivia cornered me in my office. You've been here until 9 every night this week, she said, perching on the edge of my desk. Either you've discovered the secret to not needing sleep, or something's wrong. I sighed, leaning back in my chair. Family stuff. Nothing I can't handle. Ah, she nodded. The infamous Bennett clan. Let me guess, they're still treating you like you're the front desk clerk instead of the boss. Olivia had been my assistant for 3 years, following me through 2 promotions. She knew more about my family dynamics than anyone else at the company. Something like that, I admitted. It finally came to a head. My mother has officially uninvited me from Thanksgiving.
Ouch.
Olivia winced. So, what are you going to do? Work through the holiday, probably. Maybe order Chinese food and watch bad movies. Olivia frowned. You can't spend Thanksgiving alone because your family is being ridiculous. Come to my place. My roommates and I always do a Friendsgiving thing. The invitation touched me, but the thought of being the awkward extra person at someone else's gathering was almost worse than being alone. Thanks, but I'll be okay. Really? Olivia didn't look convinced, but she dropped it. As she turned to leave, she paused at the door. You know what's ironic? They probably still expect the royal treatment at Pine Ridge for Thanksgiving, even after cutting you out. Her comment hit me like a bucket of cold water. I hadn't even thought about their Thanksgiving reservations at my resort. Out of habit, I pulled up our booking system and searched for their names. There they were. 2 premium Mountain View suites, reserved under Richard Bennett, with a note requesting their usual Thanksgiving arrangements. Private dining room for Thursday dinner, spa treatments scheduled for Friday morning, ski instructor reservations for Saturday. And a new addition, a 3rd suite for Trevor Anderson's parents, with a note that they should be placed adjacent to the other Bennett rooms. Something else caught my eye. The reservation had been made using an employee family discount code. My employee family discount code, which I'd given them years ago when I was just a manager. They were still using it, saving nearly 30% on rooms that cost over $2,000 per night during holiday peak season. They're still using my discount, I said aloud, though Olivia had already left. I dug deeper into their reservation history. Not just Thanksgiving, but every trip they'd taken to any Pinnacle property over the past 5 years had been booked with my discount code. Trips I hadn't even known about. They'd saved tens of thousands of dollars on luxury accommodations using a benefit intended for my immediate family, all while belittling my career. The irony was almost too much to bear. That evening, I called my friend Rachel, who I'd known since college. Unlike most of my other friends, Rachel had never been impressed by my family's wealth or status. Her straightforward nature was exactly what I needed right now. "They did what?" she exclaimed after I explained the situation. "And they've been using your employee discount the whole time? That's some next-level entitlement." "I know," I sighed, curling up on my couch with a glass of wine. "The worst part is, they have no idea that I'm now in charge of the entire resort. They still think I'm just some middle manager they can push around." "So tell them," Rachel suggested. "Call your mom right now and let her know exactly who she just uninvited from Thanksgiving." I shook my head, though she couldn't see it over the phone. "That feels so petty." "Madison, standing up for yourself isn't petty. They've been taking advantage of you for years while simultaneously putting you down. There has to be a consequence for that behavior." She was right, but something still held me back. A lifetime of seeking approval is a hard habit to break. "I'll think about it," I promised. The next day, I had my regular session with Dr. Harris, my therapist of 3 years. I hadn't originally planned to discuss my family situation. We'd been working on my perfectionist tendencies and work-life balance, but the moment I sat down, everything spilled out. "It sounds like you've reached a breaking point," she observed after I finished recounting the dinner and its aftermath. "I have," I admitted. "But I don't know what to do with all these feelings. I'm angry, I'm hurt, but most of all, I'm just tired. Tired of trying to prove myself to people who have no interest in seeing me for who I actually am." "What would happen if you stopped trying to prove yourself to them?" she asked. The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if you accepted that they might never give you the recognition you deserve? What would change about how you interact with them?" I thought about it for a long moment. I guess I'd stop seeking their approval. I'd make decisions based on what I want, not what might finally make them proud of me. "And how does that feel?" she prompted. "Scary," I admitted, "but also freeing." Dr. Harris nodded. "Madison, we've talked before about setting healthy boundaries. This might be the time to put that into practice. Not as punishment for your family, but as protection for yourself." "But what does that actually look like?" I asked. "Do I just cancel their reservations or something?" The moment the words left my mouth, something clicked. Not canceling their reservations, that would be unprofessional and potentially damaging to the resort's reputation. But there was something else I could do, something that would make a statement while also doing something positive. "Madison," Dr. Harris prompted when I fell silent. "I just had an idea," I said slowly. "I need to think about it some more, but I think I know what my boundary is going to be." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my staff at Pine Ridge, the housekeepers who maintained those luxury suites to perfection, the concierges who fulfilled every guest whim, the kitchen staff who worked through holidays to create memorable meals for families like mine. Most of them would work Thanksgiving Day, away from their own families, to ensure guests like my parents had a perfect holiday. Many of them had never experienced the resort from the guest perspective. They created luxury experiences day after day, but never got to enjoy them themselves. By morning, my idea had crystallized into a plan. Not just a reaction to my family's behavior, but something meaningful that aligned with my values as a leader. I wasn't going to just take something away from my family. I was going to give something valuable to the people who truly deserved it. First thing Monday morning, I called Janet Phillips, our company's legal counsel. I need to know if there are any restrictions on how we allocate complimentary or discounted rooms to employees, I explained after exchanging pleasantries. Planning something special? Janet asked. Potentially. I'm considering offering some of our premium suites to staff members for Thanksgiving weekend, as a recognition program of sorts. Janet hummed thoughtfully. Well, you have discretionary authority for comp rooms up to a certain value threshold per your position. Let me check the specifics for regional directors. After a brief hold, she returned. You can authorize up to $20,000 in complimentary accommodations per quarter without additional approval. Anything beyond that would need sign-off from the CFO. I did some quick mental math. 3 premium suites for 3 nights at holiday rates would fall just under that threshold. Perfect, I said. And is there any policy that would prevent me from reassigning rooms that were booked with an employee discount code if that code was being used improperly? Improperly how? Janet asked, her tone sharpening slightly. Say, extended family members using an employee's discount code without that employee's knowledge or consent. Janet replied, understanding dawning in her voice. No, that would actually be a violation of our employee benefits policy. The discount is strictly for immediate family members, spouse, children, parents. And the employee needs to be present during the stay unless special authorization is given. That's what I thought, I said. Thank you, Janet. My next call was to Darren in Human Resources. I'm putting together a special employee recognition program for Thanksgiving, I explained. I'd like to offer premium accommodations to some of our long-serving staff members who might not otherwise be able to experience the resort as guests. That's a wonderful idea, Darren enthused. We've been discussing more experiential recognition programs in HR for months. This could serve as an excellent pilot. Exactly my thinking, I agreed. Can you help me identify staff members who might benefit most from this? I'm looking for people who have been with us for at least 5 years, who have consistently high performance ratings, and who don't have extensive travel plans for the holiday already. I can absolutely pull that data for you, Darren assured me. How many staff members are you looking to include? I have accommodations for 3 families, I explained. Ideally people with families who could enjoy the full resort experience. I'll have a list to you by end of day, he promised. True to his word, Darren sent over a spreadsheet that afternoon with 10 candidates who met my criteria. I reviewed their personnel files, looking not just at performance metrics but at the human stories behind them. Carmen Rodriguez had been a housekeeper at Pine Ridge for 8 years, working her way up to housekeeping supervisor. Her performance reviews consistently praised her attention to detail and leadership skills. She had 3 children, ages 7, 10, and 14, and according to her file, had never taken a vacation that wasn't to visit family in New Mexico. Robert Chin had started as a line cook and now served as our sous chef. He had been with Pinnacle for 7 years and had recently gotten married. His new wife was a nurse who would be working the early shift on Thanksgiving Day, but would be free that evening and the rest of the weekend. Tiffany Washington had joined us as a front desk agent right out of college 6 years ago and had worked her way up to front office manager. She was a single mother with a 5-year-old daughter. Her latest performance review noted that she had personally resolved a major overbooking crisis during the previous ski season, saving the resort thousands in potential compensation costs. These were the people who made Pine Ridge special, who created the experience my family had enjoyed for years without a second thought. They deserved to be on the receiving end of that luxury for once. I drafted an email to each of them, explaining the special recognition program and inviting them to enjoy a 3-night stay at the resort with their families over Thanksgiving weekend. I was careful to frame it as a pilot program for employee appreciation rather than connecting it to my personal situation in any way. Before sending the emails, I needed to handle one more crucial detail. I opened the reservation system again and looked at my family's bookings. Taking a deep breath, I changed the discount code from my employee rate to a standard rate, then flagged the reservations for reallocation. They wouldn't be canceled, not yet, but they would be held in a pending status until I made the final decision. Just as I was about to close the system, my phone rang. It was Olivia. "Your mother's on line 1, she said, a note of caution in her voice. "She says it's about the Thanksgiving reservations." My heart skipped a beat. Had they somehow found out already? No, that wasn't possible. More likely, they wanted to add something special to their stay, completely oblivious to the fact that I was about to reassign their rooms. "Put her through," I said, straightening in my chair as if my mother could see me through the phone. "Madison." My mother's voice came through, crisp and businesslike. "I need you to add something to our Thanksgiving arrangements at Pine Ridge." No greeting, no acknowledgement of our last interaction, just straight to what she needed from me. Typical. "What kind of addition?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "We'll need a private room for a small celebration on Friday evening. Trevor's parents want to host an engagement dinner for Natalie and Trevor. Nothing elaborate, just 20 people or so." 20 people. For nothing elaborate. "I see," I said. "And this would be in addition to the private Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday?" "Yes, of course." "Can you arrange it?" "The usual room would be fine." I took a deep breath. This was my moment to say something, to reveal my position and the fact that I knew they'd been using my discount without permission. But something held me back. If I was going to do this, I wanted it to be thoughtful and deliberate, not reactive to yet another demand. "I'll look into it," I said instead. "Is there anything else?" "Yes, actually. Your father wants to make sure his golf lesson is with Thomas again. He doesn't like working with the other instructors." "I'll note that as well." There was a pause on the line, and for a moment I thought she might acknowledge the elephant in the room. Instead, she simply said, "Good. I'll expect confirmation by the end of the week," and hung up. I sat there for a long moment, phone still in hand, marveling at the audacity. She had explicitly uninvited me from the family Thanksgiving, yet still expected me to facilitate their perfect holiday experience. That settled it. I finalized my plan. First, I sent the emails to Carmen, Robert, and Tiffany, informing them of their selection for the Employee Appreciation Program. Then I drafted a formal notice to my family explaining that their discounted reservation had been flagged for improper use of an employee benefit and had been converted to standard rates. I included a list of alternative accommodations in the area that still had availability for Thanksgiving weekend, should they wish to make other arrangements. I didn't mention my role in the decision or my position at the company. Let them connect those dots themselves when the time came. Finally, I sent a brief email to the resort's general manager, explaining the situation and ensuring he was prepared for any potential fallout. Joshua had been my mentor when I first started in management, and I knew he would handle the situation professionally if my family made a scene. "Consider it handled," he wrote back. "And Madison? It's about time you stood up to them." As I pressed send on the final email, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Satisfaction, yes, but also anxiety about the inevitable confrontation. A lingering guilt about using my professional position in what could be seen as a personal vendetta. But beneath it all, a sense of rightness. For once, I wasn't seeking my family's approval or trying to earn my place at their table. I was making a decision based on my own values and priorities. The responses from the staff members came in throughout the afternoon, each one reinforcing that I'd made the right choice. "Is this for real?" Carmen wrote. "My kids have never stayed at a hotel this nice. They're going to go crazy when they see the pool." "I don't know what to say," came Robert's reply. "My wife has been working so hard. She deserves this kind of break. Thank you for thinking of us." Tiffany's response nearly brought me to tears. "This means more than you know. My daughter keeps asking for a princess vacation, but on a single mom salary, that's been out of reach. This Thanksgiving will be one she'll remember forever." By the end of the day, my anxiety had been replaced by a quiet certainty. Whatever happened next with my family, I had used my position to do something good for people who truly deserved it. And that was something no one, Not even my parents could take away from me. The official notifications went out to my family the next morning. I had instructed our system to send them automatically at 9 a.m., giving me time to prepare for the inevitable response. I didn't have to wait long. At 9:17, my cell phone rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello, Mother." "Madison, there's been some ridiculous mistake with our reservations," she said, her voice tight with barely contained fury. "I've just received an email saying our discount has been revoked and our rooms may not be available. You need to fix this immediately." "It's not a mistake," I said calmly. "The employee discount you've been using is only valid for immediate family members when the employee is present during the stay. Since I won't be joining you for Thanksgiving, as per your instructions, the discount is no longer applicable." A moment of stunned silence, then, "What are you talking about? Fix this nonsense right now." "I can't do that," I replied. "It would violate company policy." "Since when do you care about company policy?" she snapped. "This is family, Madison." "Is it?" I asked quietly. "Because you made it very clear that I'm not welcome as part of this family right now." Another silence, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had shifted from anger to a calculated reasonableness that I recognized from countless childhood negotiations. "Madison, dear, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Of course you're welcome for Thanksgiving. I was upset when I sent that text, but I never meant you shouldn't come to Aspen." "That's not what you said," I reminded her. "Your exact words were, 'You're not welcome here anymore.' And the group chat planning the weekend very specifically didn't include me." "Well, that was an oversight," she backpedaled. "We all assumed you'd be there. Now, about these reservations." "The reservations have been reallocated," I said firmly. "As I mentioned in the email, there are several other properties in Aspen that still have availability for Thanksgiving weekend. I'd be happy to provide those contacts again." "Reallocated," she repeated, her voice rising again. "What does that even mean? Where are we supposed to stay?" "At one of the other luxury properties in the area," I repeated. The email included several options. "This is unacceptable," she hissed. "I'm calling your father." "That's your choice," I said. "But the decision has been made. I hope you find suitable accommodations for your celebration." I ended the call before she could respond, my heart pounding. I had never spoken to my mother that way before, never directly refused one of her demands. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. My phone immediately began ringing again, my father this time. I let it go to voicemail. Then Blake. Then my mother again. I silenced my phone and focused on my actual work, the tasks that made up my real responsibilities as regional director. An hour later, Olivia appeared at my door, looking slightly shell-shocked. "Your brother is on line 1, she said. "He's not happy." I nodded. "I'll take it." "Madison," Blake barked as soon as I picked up. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "My job," I replied simply. "Your job is to help your family, not screw us over some petty disagreement." "Actually, my job is to oversee the operations of 5 luxury resort properties, including making decisions about room allocations and employee benefits. And your reservations were in violation of our employee discount policy." "Cut the corporate bullshit," he snapped. "This is about Sunday night, and you know it. This is about years of disrespect and taking advantage," I corrected him. "The employee discount you've been using saves you nearly 30% on rooms that cost over $2,000 per night during holiday periods. That's a benefit intended for my immediate family when I'm present, not for extended family gatherings that explicitly exclude me." "So, you're punishing the entire family because your feelings got hurt?" he scoffed. "Real mature, Maddie." "I'm enforcing company policy," I repeated. "And I've allocated those rooms to staff members who have earned some recognition and appreciation." "The help," he said incredulously. "You gave our rooms to the help?" His choice of words confirmed everything I'd been feeling. To Blake, the people who made his luxury experience possible weren't even individuals, they were just the help. "Those help, as you call them, are valuable team members who work incredibly hard to create the experience you take for granted," I said, my voice hardening. "And yes, They and their families will be enjoying the sweets this Thanksgiving. Dad's going to lose his mind, Blake warned. He's already talking about calling the CEO. That made me laugh out loud. He's welcome to try. But Arthur Green plays golf with me twice a month, and he's been pushing for more innovative employee recognition programs. I think he'll be quite pleased with this initiative. The line went quiet for a moment. Then, with a note of dawning realization, Blake asked, "What exactly is your job title again?" "Regional Director, Western Division," I said clearly. "I oversee 5 properties, including Pine Ridge. I've held the position for 3 months now." Another silence. "So you're telling me that I'm the person who makes these decisions?" "Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you." "Jesus, Maddie," he muttered. "Why didn't you say something?" "I did. I reminded him. Multiple times. None of you bothered to listen." The line went quiet again. When Blake spoke next, his tone had shifted from anger to negotiation. "Look, this has gotten out of hand. Tell me what you want, and we can work something out. Do you want an apology? Fine. I'm sorry we didn't take your job seriously enough. Now, can we have our rooms back?" "This isn't a negotiation," I said firmly. "The rooms have been promised to deserving staff members as part of a formal recognition program. That's not changing." "You can't be serious." "I am completely serious. Now, if there's nothing else, I have actual work to do." I hung up, half expecting the phone to ring again immediately. Instead, my email pinged with a notification. My sister had posted on her Instagram account. When family betrayal hits at the holidays, some people let power go to their heads and forget where they came from. #family drama, #holiday heartbreak. The post included a throwback photo of our family from years ago, all smiling on the deck at Pine Ridge Resort. The comments were already filling with sympathetic responses from her followers, none of whom knew the actual situation. I closed the email, refusing to be baited into a social media war. Let Natalie control that narrative if she wanted. I knew the truth. Throughout the day, the messages continued. My father left a voicemail threatening to take this to the highest levels. My mother sent texts alternating between guilt trips and demands. Even a few extended family members reached out, curious about what was happening with the usual Thanksgiving plans. I responded to those with simple facts. There had been a misunderstanding about the use of my employee discount, and unfortunately, the rooms were no longer available. I recommended several alternative properties in the area. By late afternoon, I received an email notification that caught my attention. My family had attempted to make new reservations at Pine Ridge under different names, my father's business partner and his wife. An obvious attempt to circumvent my decision. I forwarded the information to our reservations team with a note explaining the situation and asking them to politely decline the booking due to capacity constraints. That evening, I received an unexpected call from my cousin Ellie, my father's brother's daughter. We had been close as children but had drifted apart as adults. "Madison," she said when I answered. "What's this I hear about you banning the family from Pine Ridge for Thanksgiving?" I sighed. "That's not exactly what happened." "Who told you that?" "Aunt Vivian called my mom in tears, saying you'd abused your position to punish the family because you weren't invited to Thanksgiving." "Of course that's how she's spinning it," I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. "So, what had happened?" Ellie asked. I explained the situation. The years of dismissal, the explicit uninviting, the discovery of their misuse of my employee discount, and my decision to allocate the rooms to deserving staff members. "Wow," she said when I finished. "That's actually pretty badass, Madison." Her response surprised a laugh out of me. "You think so?" "Absolutely. They've been treating you like the family concierge for years. It's about time they realized you're actually the boss." Her support meant more than I'd expected. "Thanks, Ellie. That means a lot." "For what it's worth," she added, "I always thought it was cool that you built your own career instead of just joining Uncle Richard's company like Blake did. That takes guts." We chatted for a few more minutes, catching up on our lives. Before we hung up, Ellie offered, "If you need somewhere to go for Thanksgiving, Kevin and I are just having a small thing at our place. You're welcome to join us." "Thank you," I said sincerely. I might take you up on that. The first real test of my resolve came 2 days later when I received a call from Joshua, the general manager at Pine Ridge. Madison, he said, his voice tight with controlled stress. Your parents just showed up at the front desk. They're demanding to speak to whoever is in charge of their reservation. My stomach dropped. Are they making a scene? Your father is, raising his voice, Joshua confirmed diplomatically. The front desk staff called me down, but I thought you should know before I get involved. I closed my eyes briefly. Put them in your office. I'll video call in 5 minutes. Are you sure? He asked. I'm happy to handle this for you. No, I said firmly. This is my decision, and I'll stand by it directly. 5 minutes later, I was looking at my parents through the video conference screen in Joshua's office. My mother sat rigidly in one chair, while my father paced behind her. Madison, my father said as soon as he saw me on the screen. And this nonsense right now. Hello, father, I replied calmly. I understand you're upset about the reservation situation. Upset, he repeated incredulously. You've embarrassed this family and abused your position out of spite. I've already called Arthur Green. I'm aware, I said. He forwarded me your message. He also expressed his support for the employee recognition program I've implemented. My father stopped pacing, clearly thrown by this information. This isn't about some employee program, my mother interjected. This is about you punishing us because we called you out on your behavior. No, I corrected her gently. This is about me finally setting a boundary. You can't treat me like I don't matter and still expect to benefit from my position. We're your family, she insisted. Yes, you are, I agreed. And families should support each other, not tear each other down. Families should celebrate achievements, not dismiss them. Families should include everyone, not just when it's convenient. My father moved forward, leaning on the desk to look directly into the camera. Madison, I'm only going to say this once. If you don't fix this situation immediately, there will be consequences. What consequences exactly? I asked. Will you uninvite me from family gatherings? Cut me out of group discussions? Dismiss my career accomplishments? Because you've already done all of those things. He straightened, clearly not expecting this response. This isn't over, he warned. Actually, it is, I said firmly. Joshua will help you find alternative accommodations for your stay. I hope you have a nice Thanksgiving. I ended the call before they could respond, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. For the first time in my adult life, I had directly confronted my parents' behavior without backing down. It was terrifying, but it was also liberating. Joshua called me 10 minutes later. They've left, he reported. I gave them the contact information for the Alpine Lodge. They still have some availability for the weekend. Thank you for handling that, I said sincerely. I appreciate you backing me up. Are you kidding? He replied. You just became a legend among the management team. Nobody's ever stood up to Richard Bennett before. I laughed despite myself. Well, it was probably overdue. The rest of the week passed in a blur of preparation. The 3 staff families were informed of all the amenities that would be available to them, special welcome packages were arranged, and the staff was briefed to ensure they would receive VIP treatment throughout their stay. My family, meanwhile, maintained radio silence after their failed confrontation at the resort. I knew better than to think they had accepted the situation, but at least they weren't actively trying to undermine my decision anymore. By Wednesday afternoon, when I would normally have been driving up to Aspen to join my family for their Thanksgiving tradition, I found myself with an unexpected sense of freedom. For the first time in years, I didn't have to brace myself for subtle criticisms and backhanded compliments. I didn't have to carefully measure my words to avoid triggering family tensions. I could simply be myself. I called Ellie and accepted her invitation for Thanksgiving dinner, then booked a massage for myself for Friday morning. If this was what standing up for myself felt like, I should have done it years ago. Thanksgiving Day arrived crisp and clear. I slept later than usual, enjoying the luxury of not having to prepare for family drama. Around 11, I received a text from Joshua with a photo of Carmen Rodriguez and her family checking into their suite, their faces alight with excitement. Employee Appreciation Program is a smashing success, he wrote. The kids' faces when they saw the suite were priceless. Throughout the day, similar updates arrived. Robert and his new wife enjoying champagne on their balcony. Tiffany's daughter jumping with joy at the sight of the pool. Each image reinforced that I had made the right decision, regardless of the family fallout. I arrived at Ellie and Kevin's apartment around 3, bringing a bottle of wine and a pie from my favorite bakery. Their gathering was small and casual, just us, another couple I hadn't met before, and Kevin's brother. No elaborate place settings, no rigid seating arrangements, just good food and genuine conversation. It was the most relaxed Thanksgiving I'd experienced in years. So, what are you going to do if your parents show up at your place? Kevin asked as we were finishing dessert. I blinked in surprise. Why would they do that? They're in Aspen. Ellie and Kevin exchanged a look. Actually, Ellie said carefully, my mom mentioned that Uncle Richard and Aunt Vivian decided not to go to Aspen after all. Something about the alternative accommodations not being up to standard. A cold knot formed in my stomach. They're back in town? Since when? Yesterday, I think, Ellie replied. I assumed you knew. I shook my head, reaching for my phone to check for any messages I might have missed. Nothing from my parents, but there was a text from Blake. Hope you're happy. Parents' Thanksgiving is ruined because of you. Before I could process this information, my phone rang with an unknown number. I excused myself to answer it. Ms. Bennett, an unfamiliar voice said. This is Edwin from your building's front desk. Your parents are here asking to be let up to your apartment. I explained that I need to call you first for authorization. I closed my eyes briefly. Thank you, Edwin. Please tell them I'm not home right now. I did, ma'am, he replied uncomfortably. They said they'll wait. Of course they would. Once my parents decided on a confrontation, they would see it through, regardless of inconvenience. I understand, I sighed. Please let them know I won't be back until much later this evening, and they might be more comfortable waiting elsewhere. After hanging up, I returned to the dining room and explained the situation to Ellie and the others. You can stay here as long as you need, Ellie offered immediately. We're watching football and playing board games all evening anyway. The offer was tempting, but a voice in my head, one that sounded suspiciously like Dr. Harris, reminded me that avoiding confrontation wasn't the same as setting boundaries. Thank you, I said sincerely, but I think I need to deal with this. They're not going to stop until we have this out once and for all. Kevin looked concerned. Want me to come with you? Moral support. I smiled at his kindness, but shook my head. This is something I need to handle myself. But thank you. By the time I arrived back at my building, it was nearly 7. Edwin nodded to me as I entered, mouthing lobby and gesturing subtly to my right. I took a deep breath and turned. My parents sat stiffly on one of the modern couches in the lobby area. My mother's back was ramrod straight, her designer handbag perched on her lap. My father scrolled through his phone with sharp, irritated movements. Neither looked like they were enjoying their Thanksgiving. Mother. Father, I said as I approached. Edwin said you wanted to see me. They looked up, my mother's expression shifting quickly from annoyance to a practiced social smile. Madison, finally. We've been waiting for hours. I was at Thanksgiving dinner with friends. I explained, not apologizing. What brings you here? Can we discuss this upstairs? My father asked, glancing around the lobby. Rather than airing family business in public? That was rich coming from him, considering the scene he'd caused at Pine Ridge, but I nodded. Fine. The elevator ride to my apartment on the 12th floor was silent and tense. Once inside, I hung up my coat and turned to face them. Would you like some coffee? I offered, more out of ingrained politeness than genuine hospitality. We didn't come for social hour, my father said tersely. We came to address your behavior. My behavior, I repeated. That's interesting, considering I'm not the one who showed up unannounced at someone's home on Thanksgiving. My mother's lips thinned. We wouldn't have had to if you hadn't ruined our holiday plans. I didn't ruin anything, I said calmly. I simply stopped allowing you to benefit from my position while simultaneously dismissing it. Is that what this childish tantrum is about? My father demanded. You think we don't respect your job? It's not a matter of what I think, I replied. It's what you've demonstrated repeatedly. Playing hotel manager. Whatever it is you do at that hotel. Those are direct quotes from both of you and Blake. We've always supported your choices, my mother insisted. No, I corrected her. You've always tolerated my choices while making it clear they don't measure up to your expectations. There's a difference. My father paced across my living room, his frustration evident in every movement. Do you have any idea what you've done? The Andersons had to cancel their trip entirely. Natalie's engagement dinner had to be moved to some subpar restaurant. All because you wanted to make some petty point. It wasn't a petty point, I said firmly. It was a boundary. And frankly, the fact that you're more upset about changed dinner plans than about how you've treated me for years says everything about our relationship. Oh, spare us the victim act, my mother snapped. You've always been so sensitive, taking everything personally. When you personally attack me, yes, I take it personally, I agreed. Shocking concept, I know. My father stopped pacing to face me directly. Enough games, Madison. What do you want? What do I want? I repeated. To fix this situation, he clarified impatiently. What will it take? An apology? More attention for your career achievements? What's your price? The question was so fundamentally misguided that I almost laughed. As if this were a business negotiation rather than a fundamental breakdown in family dynamics. I don't have a price, I said quietly. What I want is respect. Not just for my career, but for me as a person. I want to be valued as a member of this family, not just tolerated when convenient and discarded when I don't conform to expectations. My mother sighed dramatically. We've always valued you, Madison. Have you? I challenged her. When's the last time either of you asked me about my work without comparing it unfavorably to Blake's? When's the last time you celebrated one of my achievements without immediately changing the subject to Natalie's latest social triumph? When's the last time you included me in family discussions as an equal rather than as an afterthought? Their silence was telling. Do you even know what my job entails? I continued. Do you have any concept of the responsibilities I manage? I oversee 5 luxury properties with a combined annual revenue of over $90 million. I manage a staff of more than 500 people. My annual bonus last year was more than Blake's quarterly commission that you were so impressed by. My father's eyes narrowed at that. That's not possible. It absolutely is, I countered. Blake may have a fancy title at your company, Dad, but we both know his actual contributions are minimal. He rides on your reputation and connections. I built my career from scratch, without trading on the Bennett name or asking for your help. The truth of my words seemed to land with an almost physical impact. My father's expression shifted from dismissal to a reluctant reassessment. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked, her voice smaller now. I did, I said simply. Many times. You weren't interested in hearing it. My father moved to sit on my couch, suddenly looking older than his 65 years. So all this, the reservations, the embarrassment, it was to prove a point about your success? I shook my head. No. It was about finally refusing to accept disrespect and dismissal from the people who should support me most. The fact that I redirected those rooms to staff members who deserved recognition was a bonus, a way to turn something negative into something positive. A long silence fell over the room as my parents processed what I was saying. Finally, my mother spoke. I didn't realize you felt this way. I know, I said, some of my anger softening. That's part of the problem. You haven't been paying attention to how I feel for a very long time. Another silence, this one less tense than before. We should have a family meeting, my father finally said. With Blake and Natalie, too. Clear the air properly. It wasn't an apology, not yet, but it was an acknowledgement. A small step. I'd be open to that, I agreed cautiously. But only if it's an actual dialogue, not just another opportunity for me to be talked over or dismissed. He nodded. Fair enough. And I want to be clear, I added. I'm not going to suddenly start attending every family function with a smile just because we've had one conversation. Building a healthier relationship is going to take time and consistent effort from all of us. We understand, my mother said, though I wasn't entirely convinced she did. Old patterns were hard to break, especially for someone as committed to appearances as Vivian Bennett. They left shortly after, our conversation reaching a natural conclusion without any dramatic resolutions or grand promises. Just a tentative understanding that things needed to change and a willingness, at least in that moment, to try. As I closed the door behind them, I felt lighter somehow. Not because everything was fixed, it wasn't and might never be completely, but because I had finally spoken my truth without flinching. I had drawn a line and held it, even when faced with their disapproval and anger. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't defining myself by their expectations or measuring my worth by their approval. And that felt like the real Thanksgiving miracle. The day after Thanksgiving, I drove up to Pine Ridge. Not to check on my family, who had indeed booked rooms at the Alpine Lodge, a perfectly lovely 4-star property nearby, but to see how our staff families were enjoying their stay. Joshua met me in the lobby, grinning widely. The Employee Appreciation Program is a massive hit, he reported. Not just with the 3 families staying here, but with the entire staff. Morale is through the roof. Really? I asked, genuinely surprised by the ripple effect. Absolutely. Everyone's talking about it. The idea that hard work and loyalty might someday earn them a chance to experience the resort as guests. It's created a whole new level of engagement. He walked me through the property, pointing out where our staff guests were enjoying various amenities. Carmen's children were taking a swimming lesson in the indoor pool. Robert and his wife were getting couples massages in the spa. Tiffany and her daughter were making gingerbread houses in the holiday workshop set up for guests. Miss Bennett, Carmen called when she spotted me by the pool area. She came over, still in her swimsuit with a cover-up hastily thrown on. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. My kids are over the moon. Luis has already decided he wants to be a swimming instructor when he grows up. She gestured to her oldest son, who was listening intently to the resort's swimming coach. I'm so glad you're enjoying it, I said sincerely. You and your team make this place special every day. It's only right that you get to experience it from the other side sometimes. It's changed how I see my job, she admitted. Now I understand better why the details matter so much to our guests. That view from the suite at sunrise? The perfectly fluffed pillows? It really does make a difference to the experience. Throughout the day, I had similar conversations with Robert, Tiffany, and several other staff members who weren't part of the program but were excited by its existence. The consistent theme was a renewed appreciation for the experiences they created for guests and a stronger connection to the resort's mission of exceptional service. By late afternoon, I was sitting in Joshua's office, discussing how we might formalize the program for future holidays, when my phone buzzed with a text. To my surprise, it was from my cousin Ellie. Check Instagram. Natalie posted something you should see. Curious and slightly wary, I opened the app and navigated to my sister's profile. Her latest post showed her and Trevor at the Alpine Lodge, champagne glasses raised against a backdrop of snowy mountains. The caption read, "Not the Thanksgiving we planned, but sometimes life's detours lead to important revelations. Grateful for perspective this holiday season. #blessed, #Thanksgiving, #family first." It wasn't a direct acknowledgement of our situation, but from Natalie, whose social media presence was carefully curated to project perfection, it was significant. The admission that things hadn't gone as planned and the hint at important revelations suggested our parents' conversation with me had extended to her as well. Everything okay? Joshua asked, noticing my extended silence. I think it might be, I said, showing him the post. Coming from my sister, this is practically a peace offering. Later that evening, I received another unexpected message, this one from Blake. No text, just a forwarded email showing the quarterly performance review for his department at our father's company. The numbers were solid but not spectacular, and notably lower than the figures I had shared about my own division's performance. It was Blake's way of acknowledging that I had been telling the truth about my career success, without actually having to say the words. Typical Blake, but progress nonetheless. As the weekend drew to a close, I found myself at a small table in the resort's cafe, watching the Sunday afternoon checkout rush. Carmen and her family were preparing to leave, the children still buzzing with excitement from their fancy hotel stay, as the youngest called it. Tiffany stopped by my table on her way out, her daughter's hand firmly in hers. "I just wanted to say thank you again," she said. Zoe hasn't stopped talking about how she felt like a real princess this weekend. The little girl nodded enthusiastically, her braids bouncing. "I'm going to work in a hotel when I grow up," she declared. "Just like Ms. Bennett." "That's a wonderful goal," I told her seriously. "The hotel business needs smart young women like you." After they left, I sat for a while longer, reflecting on the unexpected outcomes of what had started as a simple boundary-setting exercise. Not only had I finally stood up to my family's dismissive treatment, but I'd inadvertently created something positive and meaningful for my team. Something that might become a tradition in its own right. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Your father and I would like to have dinner next weekend to continue our discussion. Blake and Natalie will join us. Please let me know if you're available." The old Madison would have immediately rearranged her schedule to accommodate this request, eager for any chance to gain parental approval. The new Madison considered her actual availability and preferences before responding. "I have plans Saturday but could do Sunday at 6. Would prefer somewhere casual rather than the club." A small boundary, but a boundary nonetheless. My mother's response came a few minutes later. "Sunday at 6 works. Your father has suggested Giovanni's. Is that casual enough?" Giovanni's was my favorite Italian restaurant, a fact my mother knew but rarely acknowledged in her preference for trendier establishments. The suggestion wasn't an accident. "Giovanni's is perfect," I replied. "See you then." As I drove back to the city that evening, I reflected on everything that had happened since that fateful text message just over a week ago. My family dynamics hadn't transformed overnight. Decades of patterns couldn't be undone in a few days. But something fundamental had shifted both in how they saw me and in how I saw myself. I no longer needed their approval to validate my worth. I had built a career I was proud of, formed meaningful connections with colleagues who respected me, and finally found the courage to stand up for myself when it mattered. These were achievements that no one, not even Richard and Vivian Bennett, could diminish. The next morning, I received an email from Arthur Green, the CEO, congratulating me on the success of the Employee Appreciation Program and asking for a formal proposal to implement it company-wide. "This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need more of," he wrote. "Well done, Madison." I forwarded the email to Dr. Harris with a simple message: "Boundaries work." Her reply came within minutes. "They absolutely do. How does it feel?" I thought about it for a moment before responding. Empowering. But also a little sad that it took this long. "Growth often comes with growing pains," she wrote back. "The important thing is that you've taken the step." That evening, I received one final unexpected communication, a text from my younger cousin Jessica, Ellie's sister, who I hadn't spoken to in months. "Just heard what went down with the family Thanksgiving," she wrote. "Aunt Vivian is spinning it, but Ellie told me the real story. Wanted you to know I think you're badass for standing up to them. Some of us younger cousins have been waiting for someone to break the Bennett family perfection facade. Thanks for being the one brave enough to do it." Her message brought unexpected tears to my eyes. I hadn't considered how my actions might impact the extended family, particularly the younger generation still finding their way out from under the weight of Bennett expectations. "It wasn't easy," I wrote back honestly, "but it was necessary. For what it's worth, you don't have to wait for their approval either. Your path is yours to choose." "I'm starting to see that," Jessica replied. "Watching you build your own career, instead of just falling in line, has been more inspiring than you know." As I prepared for bed that night, I found myself thinking about the Thanksgiving traditions to come. Would I rejoin the family gathering next year? Perhaps, but only on different terms. Or maybe I'd create new traditions. A Friendsgiving like Ellie's, or a continuation of the Employee Appreciation Program that had brought such joy to Carmen, Robert, Tiffany, and their families. The beauty was in knowing I had choices now. I wasn't bound by obligation or the desperate need for approval. I could decide what felt right and healthy for me, setting boundaries where needed and opening doors where welcome. The journey ahead with my family wouldn't be simple or smooth. Old patterns would resurface. Old wounds would reopen. But I had found my voice now, and I wasn't going to lose it again. Whatever came next, I would face it as the Madison I had become. Successful on my own terms, confident in my worth, and unwilling to accept anything less than the respect I deserved. And that, I realized as I drifted toward sleep, was something to be truly thankful for. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with family members who didn't recognize your accomplishments? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it relatable, subscribe for more real-life stories like this one, and share with anyone who might need the courage to stand up for themselves this holiday season. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to draw a clear line and hold it.